drip wakes her. One drop, then another, somewhere in the dark. 6 months ago she would have leapt up, found the towel, made the night behave. Tonight she just listens. In the dream she's in her kitchen. The tap is fully closed, but the water won't listen. It threads along the counter, gathers at the lip, then lets go, drip, onto the tile. She stacks books on chairs. She twists the valve until her fingers ache. The drip becomes a run. The run becomes a sheet. When the water lifts against her ribs, cool, patient, inevitable, she wakes, still listening for it. Most people call it stress. I don't. I'm a therapist who works in the Jungian tradition. In this work, water often stands in for the unconscious, the part of you that speaks in images when words fail. Lakes and tubs tend to feel personal, oceans tilt toward the collective, bigger than one life. Water doesn't knock. It rises. She sits across from me with that new stillness the recently changed carry like a different temperature. Her mother says she's gone cold. Her friends say she isn't the same. They're right. She isn't. She has stopped mopping rooms that pretend they aren't wet. She watches the swell before it breaks and waits. It makes people nervous. It makes me, sometimes, nervous. Once you've seen the water moving at night, daylight refuses to go back to flat. The group chat sounds swollen. Meetings feel heavy with things no one will say. You can't unknow where the leak is. And here's the trap no one warns you about: you can't make anyone else see it with you. So you stand in the doorway of your own life, dry for the first time, listening to a house insist there is no water, and the tap, somewhere, keeps dripping. Only 3 futures open from that sound. 2 will cost you more than you think. The third asks for something you've spent your whole life avoiding. She tried the first future without naming it. Fewer dinners. Fewer calls. Work became heads down. She told herself quiet was healing when really it was distance. The house stayed dry because she sealed the windows, not because the weather changed. For 3 weeks she slept, and then the dream returned, same kitchen, same valve, same ache in her hands. Only this time the water rose without hurry, like it knew she had nowhere to be. Withdrawal looks clean from far away. Up close it leaves rings. She cried in a supermarket aisle with no story attached. Tears without a scene. I asked what she missed. Nothing, she said, then corrected herself. Noise. What she missed was proof she was necessary. When you stop rescuing, the silence you earn can feel like exile. I asked her to consider that she wasn't afraid of drowning so much as of the furniture moving. She smiled without humor. If I stop arranging, something breaks. I said nothing. The radiator in my office ticked once, caught itself, then gave in, metal admitting a change in temperature. She heard it and looked at the wall like the building had just modeled the thing we were talking about. The third future doesn't arrive like an epiphany. It arrives like a bad dinner. She went. She didn't intercept the first jab, she let it land where it belonged. She didn't translate her mother's tremor into chores, she let the room hear it. When the silence widened, she didn't fill it with towels. I'm not doing that tonight, she said, and drank water that had nothing to solve. No one drowned. Someone rolled their eyes. Someone changed the subject. The world declined to collapse. She went home tired in a clean way. That night the dream shifted by an inch. Same kitchen. Same drip. In the far corner, a dark that could have been only dark, or the beginning of a seam. In Jung's language, a symbol is a transformer. When you change in waking life, the image evolves with you. The unconscious isn't teasing. It's precise. Integration limps before it walks. You will overcorrect. The next week she mistook honesty for incision and cut too cleanly. Her partner flinched. The old reflex arrived on schedule: withdraw, compose the perfect apology, come back with tidy language and no blood. Instead she stayed. I said that sharply, she admitted. I was scared. They talked like people without scripts. It took longer. Nobody won. Something living entered the room, That's individuation in miniature, less performance, more relation to the deeper self the psyche keeps trying to grow you toward. Rooms test new seals. Her brother tried the shortcut, you're overreacting. Before, she would have argued herself hoarse. She let the sentence sit there like a wet rag that wasn't hers to pick up. It slid off the table on its own. Then came the sweetness trap, a soft voice wrapped around a hard demand. She felt the old confusion, kindness as surrender, reach for her lungs. She placed a palm on the counter instead. I want to be kind, she said, and I can't say yes to that. Not harsh. Not sweet. True. Differentiation, not detachment, feeling with without fusing. There were failures. There always are. One night she curated a conversation like a museum guide, directing, labeling, arranging sightlines. The evening gleamed and no one touched anything. She went home dry and lonely. Control makes a spotless floor. No one dances. People imagine dream work like a crossword. It's closer to learning a coastline. You stop asking whether the tide loves you and start asking when it turns. In my office the radiator ticked, paused, surrendered to the change. She smiled at the sound like the building was practicing letting go. When does the door appear? She asked, the one she almost saw. Doors don't keep schedules. They keep prices. They open when you stop arranging everyone else's furniture and begin moving your own. She didn't like that answer. Neither do I, most days. But every door I've seen led to air that smelled like rain and wood, and a light you cannot switch on, only reach. In Jungian terms, thresholds are rights, you cross them when you consent to depth. 2 nights later the kitchen filled again, but the water felt less like a verdict and more like weather. It rose to the ribs and held, as if measuring rather than punishing. She stood in it without bargaining. That was new. In the holding, a smaller sound reached her, the tap easing, a pipe settling the way old pipes do after a rush. Not a miracle. A margin. She wanted switches. Everyone does. If I do this right, will the dreams stop? The better ones don't stop, they change. They move from alarm to tide table. You don't turn them off, you learn their hours. The psyche shows you the personal basin first, tubs, sinks, a house, then sometimes widens to the sea, when something collective is moving through you too. Either way, the instruction is the same, attend, adjust, repeat. We ended early that day. She had nothing left to prove, and that was the proof. Out in the hall a printer stuttered and sighed, the building breathed like something old learning a new rhythm. She paused with her hand on the door, as if the room might have one more line for her. It didn't. Not today. Some days you leave on time and that is the therapy. The kitchen returned, precise as a set, counter, valve, patience. The water lifted, then waited. She waited back. In the far wall the dark thickened into a line that wasn't just shadow. A seam. She woke angry at how stingy clarity can be. Clarity isn't stingy. It's expensive. It bills in advance. The week got meaner before it got kind. Rooms test new seals because old patterns prefer old lungs. Her brother tried the shortcut again. She didn't argue. She watched the sentence slide off the table by its own weight. Later the sweetness trap, the soft voice around the hard demand. Her chest reached for the familiar surrender. She kept her palm on the counter and stayed with the wanting without obeying it. I want to be kind, she said, and I can't say yes to that. The room learned a new grammar. There were losses. You don't choose air without losing a few rooms that only love humidity. A friend stopped texting. A coworker called her different, which is what people say when you stop donating your oxygen. She took a walk instead of an apology tour. The sky was too bright, traffic was exact, nothing answered back. Sometimes the win is that nothing answers back. Give me one line for when mercy tries to dress up as surrender, she said. I gave her the only line I trust on bad nights, I can be with the weather without becoming the flood. She wrote it slowly, like careful handwriting could keep it from smudging when she needed it most. The kitchen again. Same counter. Same impossible patience. The water lifted and held. She didn't reach for the valve. She turned toward the far wall and looked until the seam became wood. Not wholly, just there. She touched it. The room tilted a little, the way rooms do in dreams when they admit what they were built over, and the water moved toward the line. Doors don't save you. They disclose you. They show you where the room was always leaning. She opened it the way real doors open, a little sticky, then all at once. No choir. A hallway, narrow, smelling of damp wood and outside. The water came with her to the ankles and then behaved, as if it had been wanting a corridor this whole time. Here's the part one rarely say out loud: when you stop trying to keep everyone dry, the water stops trying to drown you. It reassigns you. You become a carrier of weather instead of its casualty. Rooms change pressure when you enter. People breathe, sometimes for the first time that week. They may not thank you. They may call you different. They will be right. Will they think I'm cruel? She asked, the way people ask when they've mistaken warmth for availability their whole lives. You can be gentle and firm at the same time. It costs more skill than either alone. What if they don't change? The honest answer keeps more doors closed than any other, and I gave it anyway. Then this still works, and that is why it's hard. She tried something unfancy. She told one person the truth without embroidery, then stopped talking. She let the silence do a job she had always done for it. Not a technique, an absence. The other person found their own words, halting and human. Subtraction is the loudest quiet. That night she didn't dream a lecture. She dreamed a hallway. Bare walls. A window at the end with rain behind it. She walked toward a light she couldn't switch on, only reach. The water followed at her ankles like a patient dog. Legacy is smaller and harder than the vows people make in flood seasons. It isn't "I'll fix the river." It's the after you leave in a room. For years her after was absorption, people felt lighter and she felt erased. Now her after was air. Not rescue. Breath. In Jung's frame, that's the ethical side of individuation, becoming more singular without becoming less related. Will there be nights when the tap screams and the room fills to the lights? Of course. Grief has its own plumbing. So does love. But she knows where the door is. She knows the hallway smell. She knows that standing still can be a movement when the water is choosing who you are. If you're waiting for courage before you touch the knob, that's how walls get higher. Courage arrives in the turning, not before it. If you're waiting for them to change first, that's how rooms stay swampy. Open the door for your own lungs. Let everyone else decide whether to follow you into air. The drip hasn't stopped. It probably won't. Houses are old, and so are we. But she sleeps now. When the sound wakes her, she listens, not for permission, for direction. Most mornings, when she swings her feet to the floor, the tile is cool and honest, the way a room feels when it knows you won't lie about the water anymore.